Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for a virtual Geodesign Alumni panel. It is a pleasure to have those of you present here. And if anybody's watching, we are recording this just to let all participants know. So if you do have your camera on, you are being recorded for viewing later on by our undergraduates or possibly prospective students. So we have a wonderful panel today of distinguished geodesign alumni. Before I get to round robin introductions of the panelists, let me introduce myself. I don't think that there's anybody currently on the Zoom, but for those that don't know my face, I am Dr. Laura Loyola, the Director of Undergraduate Studies with Spatial Sciences Institute. And as such, it is my pleasure to be the moderator today of this lovely panel. I'm going to take a moment though, because like anything at Spatial Sciences, this would not be possible without our exceptional staff and colleagues. So I would like to quickly put a shout out to Susan Kamei, our Managing Director, Ken Watson, our Academic Programs Director, and Dayron Caro, somewhere there on my screen, our Program Specialist, who do so much in organizing all of our now virtual events. So big shout out and thank you to them, to the students you interact with, Ken and Dayron, and I'm sure you miss being able to run into Ken's office on it whenever you wanted to. So hopefully soon we'll be back there. So we put this panel together actually because we thought students, it'd be great for you current students to hear and have some advice and know the experiences of some of our lovely alumni. And, you know, we can tell you what we know, but it's often better coming from the alumni. We have a couple of questions that we'll go through with the panelists, but if you do have any questions for anybody, feel free to type them into the chat box. And we don't have a presentation, a slide presentation. So if you would like to switch your Zoom viewing mode to gallery so that you can see more of us at once, please do so. And go ahead and type any questions or comments or concerns into the chat.
I always be here all the time.
Okay, great. And I'm going to go ahead and start with asking some of our panelists to introduce themselves with a quick, and I'll go down and I'm going to call on you simply because we appear on each other's screens in a different order. So can't say left to right or anything. But for our panelists, if you can just do a brief introduction of who you are, when you graduated from geodesign, and what you've been up to since graduating. So if you've been working or graduate school or both, just let us know. So on my screen, Grace, you are directly first. So I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
Hello, I'm Grace Corsi. I graduated in May of 2019, so narrowly avoided the pandemic. And I am now working full-time as a GIS data analyst, actually the first GIS data analyst at CLR Group, which is a large architecture and planning firm that has, I obviously work in the LA office, but they have 26 offices, I think, across the country and in China and the Middle East.
Oh, Laura, you're muted.
I know I muted because I was just actually going to say, you know, if you want to mute yourself while you are not speaking, go ahead if there's interference. And I did that. Alex, you're next.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex. I graduated from the Geodesign program in 2018. I am currently, I'm trained as a social and spatial epidemiologist. I did my graduate work at Columbia Mailman School of Public Health and Epidemiology, and I'm currently working as a public health data analyst for the City Health Dashboard at NYU Langone Health.
They have a great dashboard. Thank you very much, Alex. Sam, you're next on my screen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sam. I just graduated in 2020, so I was the OG pandemic graduating class. And after graduating, I did a quick internship, summer internship with Youth Mappers and OpenStreetMaps. And I'm currently in graduate school getting a Master's of Science in Cartography through the Erasmus Mundus program. So I'm currently in Munich studying at the Technical University of Munich, and will be moving to Vienna for my next semester.
How exciting. So Sam is coming to us from 9 hours ahead of Pacific time. So thank you very much. Courtney.
Hey everyone, so good to see everybody. My name is Courtney. I graduated also in May 2020. So I was just in the same class as Sam. And ever since graduation, I have been working for Deloitte as a strategy and analytics consultant. And I'm working on a project super relevant to COVID. I'm actually in charge of creating the website that people use to sign up for the vaccine. So that's been a really obviously meaningful experience, and yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Robin, you are next.
Hi everyone, my name is Robin Frankie. I graduated the Geodesign program in 2018 with Alex, and since then I was actually in the progressive degree program at USC, so I got my master's in planning in May 2019, and since then I was working for LA Metro briefly, and then I'm now working at Esri as a solution engineer on our smart cities team.
All right, awesome, thank you. So now that you know kind of where everybody has been since graduation, we have a few questions. I'm going to just sort of throw them out there to a couple of you at a time and keep the discussion going. Other panelists, again, welcome to chime in. And I see we have a few other alumni hanging out with us. So, you know, if there's additional advice that you would like to share, please feel free to pop it in the chat or raise your hand or something. So I'm going to volley this one first to Grace and Alex. What aspects of the geodesign degree have been most helpful in your job search or graduate school, because you went there first, Alex, or in whatever you happen to be doing now, because now, Alex, you're doing different stuff. So what aspects of the geodesign degree have been most helpful?
Alex, do you want to go first or should I?
Yeah, sure, I can go first. So when I was finishing up at USC, I realized that I wanted to learn more, specifically in the health sphere. I had a minor in public health and an internship that I actually found out about through the Spatial Sciences Institute really sparked my interest in specifically GIS methods in public health. So the goal of my graduate school or my graduate degree was to see how I could combine health and place, which led me to going to Columbia, because Columbia has one of the most established spatial epidemiology programs in the country. So I went there, I did a fellowship, and then kind of like went on this whole soul searching path of like what I wanted to do next. And it was through actually a lot of guidance from academic advisors there that they helped me use geodesign as a way to frame how I thought about health and the relationship between health and place, and how neighborhoods and cities are very unique microcosms of health outcomes as well as predictors of health. And so I think that definitely forms the job that I have right now. Right when I started talking with my now manager and my PI, they saw my resume, and the first question they asked was, "What is your major? Like, what is geodesign?" And it gave a really great opportunity for me to talk about this whole conceptual framework that is really taught to all of us from so early on. And I think frames for so many of us the way we think about place. And I think it really gave me the tools and the language to be able to navigate through a space that I wasn't as familiar with, but then became more and more comfortable with over time.
Thanks. Grace?
Yeah, so I think one of my favorite things that I took away from our program was the ability to think at a systems level and to sort of translate across a lot of different disciplines and perspectives in order to help people make more informed decisions. So in the work that I do, my firm has it's an architecture firm, but it does a bunch of different types of projects. So I'm constantly working with different types of project teams, whether it's someone who's working in K-12 or they're doing a market analysis for culture and performing arts, or they're trying to figure out what to do for the visioning process for a mixed use project. So it's been really great just getting kind of like what Alex said about sort of having the language to really be part of those conversations. I feel like this program really prepared me well to talk across the lines of disciplines and scales when it comes to the projects that I'm working on, and to sort of make things that people wouldn't necessarily find meaning in more valuable to them by understanding what the actual design implications might be of beginning to understand contextual systems and how people can actually make decisions based on that information. So yeah, it's been really fun also just learning about all of these different project types that I hadn't been exposed to before, and at the same time being able to talk to those people in a way that they understand, and to stakeholders as well for the various community engagement sessions that I've been helping facilitate.
Thank you. I think, Alex, that is one of the common questions your employer asked. What is this geodesign major? I think that's a common question, hopefully not so common when some of our younger students get out into the workplace, but especially for parents, they might be asking that of their students. So I'm glad that you've been able to articulate what it is and how that's helped. So all right, for the next one, I'm going to volley this to Courtney, Robin, or Sam, whoever wants to go on first. And why did you decide to pursue the path that you're on? So Courtney work, Sam graduate school, instead of the other one, or whichever direction you are on now. Why is that the direction that you chose?
I can go first. I obviously receiving a job acceptance is exciting. So I think I was kind of in the position of, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but consulting is a great place to be for people like that. So it really gives you the platform to explore different projects. And then for those of you who aren't aware, consulting at a firm like Deloitte is kind of a place where you own your career. So a big professional services firm has just a ton of projects that you can kind of pick and choose from. So right now I'm actually on like a federal health project, and that wasn't really something in my scope of vision when I was graduating. But now that I'm here, it's something that's super interesting to me. And again, I think geodesign just really prepared me to be an employee that can successfully, bridge gaps and find like the interconnectedness between different fields. So I think for me, coming out of USC, I was like ready to work, ready to make some of my own money and have that sort of independence. So that was the decision-making process for me. But ultimately, when you get a job, you're like, how can I turn it down? So that was my path.
Yeah, and for me, the process was a bit more, I was very open to both options of either doing grad school or also applying to jobs. Although I had already been looking back at my internship experience, my research experience, and realizing that the jobs that I was more looking towards were a bit more in either the artistic realm or the more visual data visualization realm. And I really wanted to hone in on that skill. So I was both applying to jobs and also to grad programs, kind of centering around that. That's how I landed on cartography. And ultimately it came down to, I was already receiving grad school applications, and I received an Erasmus Mundus scholarship. Similar to Courtney, I was, you receive the acceptance, I received this scholarship. How could I turn this down? It was such an amazing opportunity. I was very lucky that I was able to get that decision before having to apply to lots of other positions. So that kind of made my decision-making process a bit easier. Also, in the midst of the pandemic, it was very nice to know what I was doing for the next few years. So, but yeah, it was just a matter of looking at jobs I had had and jobs I would rather have and seeing where the disconnect was. And for me, it was that I wanted to have more of a solid base of visualization techniques and things like that.
Great, thanks. Robin, do you want to provide a quick why you chose to pursue work right away?
Well, I did get my master's first.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. You went you've been out a little bit longer than just recently.
Yeah, so I would say hands down, internships are really, really, really important. It helps you understand what you want to do after you graduate. So one of the internships I had was at LA Metro. I ended up working there full time, but when I was interning there, I would talk to my coworkers, the people above me, and I really understood that I wanted to go the urban planning route. And if you want to be an urban planner, at least at Metro, a lot of them had master's degrees. So that really pursued me to apply for the progressive degree program, since it's only 1 extra year, and usually planning programs are 2 years. So I knew early on that I wanted to be in the urban planning field. And so it made it easier for me to apply for the program. And then once I got in, it was just another year.
Awesome. And we have another progressive degree student, alumni of Geodesign progressive degree student, who's on the call as well. So if you have questions about the progressive degrees, well, we have a whole session on those. Feel free to ask, I think either Robin or Austin questions. They're in different programs, but progressive degrees are amazing. So I'm going to send the next question to Sam and Grace. Sort of how you found your current position. This is kind of connected to what you already said, Sam, but also what other recommendations would you have to our students in identifying paths to pursue and how you got to where you are now?
Oh, you can go first. Go for it.
Okay. I would just slightly echo what Robin said. The way I found my specific program was actually talking to a mutual coworker of mine and Eliza's when we were interning at Esri. She mentioned a program that a friend of hers had done in the Netherlands that was very specifically in the geodesign realm. That was very interesting to me. So it was through researching that other program that I found other opportunities. But as Robin said, really talking to anybody you're working with, even if it's just, it might just feel like small talk at points, but you never know when somebody's going to bring up something that's really interesting to you, or that just sparks like a long Google research session that shows you opportunities that you might not know are out there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that you've said, Sam. I think for me, it was about just, in addition to leveraging connections with colleagues, just being unafraid to reach out to people who you have mutual connections with, or doing your research to find out what might I be interested in, what options are there, and then figuring out if you know anyone that knows that person who can help make an introduction. To be perfectly frank, I'm not going to lie, I did a lot of LinkedIn stalking during my job search to be like, oh, what's this firm? Who works there? And do I know anyone that knows them? Like, what do I have in common with them? How can I learn more about what they do? But those conversations were actually pretty useful. And I will make this recommendation to everyone, go to the architecture career fair, because a lot of times people in our program don't know about it, but that's actually how I got the job that I have now. Is I was talking to someone there who was saying, we don't have actually a position for what you do, but there's this one person in our office who's really interested in that. And I think she's looking to hire someone. So I'm just going to put you in contact with her. I actually got hired for a different position than what I have now. That was also, no one had it before. And it was a brand new like research-based position. But so yeah, definitely don't be afraid to talk to people. And even just, I mean, Susan, Ken, Jennifer, John, Laura, like they all have a lot of connections with people at other universities and various companies in a lot of different places. So don't be afraid to ask them for help and to just see if they know anyone who they might be able to connect you with to just learn more about what they do and start a conversation.
Great, thank you. One of the things that Grace just touched on, LinkedIn. She says she did a lot of LinkedIn stalking. Ken and I smile because now that's our job. We do that with our alumni as well. So feel free to utilize your links with us to find alumni as well. So that is a good recommendation. LinkedIn is a good platform to utilize and to make those professional connections. Thanks. The next one, Courtney and whomever else would like to answer. Sam, Alex, I don't know, I kind of threw it out to both of you as a toss-up for grad schools, non-progressive degree grad schools. So aside from the USC resources like the Career Center, what other resources should recent graduates know about or look at for jobs or grad schools?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is a huge one. Definitely going through your network that way. I think the biggest thing is that, like, I feel like all of us on the panel can speak to this. Everyone's so happy to be helpful in any way because we've all been in your position. So I can honestly say, like, I try and take as many like coffee chats or short, 10-minute Zoom calls as I can and like put in a good word. Like, I don't know how much weight my word carries as a first year analyst, but I do still put in a good word with people that I do know, especially if they come out of geodesign. So I think definitely taking advantage of your network is a big thing. And, I'm trying to think back even to, when I was applying to internships during college. And I think a big thing there is doing your homework and doing your research. I actually found geodesign as a major through stumbling across the summit in like 2012 or like 2013 or something like that. So, and then I remember I emailed Susan and was just like, hey, can I come? I'm like an eager sophomore in high school. And, long story short, ended up coming to USC for it. So just doing your homework and, reaching out, kind of not being afraid to step out of your comfort zone and cold call people or cold email people is a lot more valuable, I think, than people realize.
Yeah, I definitely can echo so much of what Courtney said. I think that a resource that I found myself using a lot of were my professors, actually. Because a lot of my professors, granted, I'm still working in the academic realm, so it might not be as applicable for some people, but a lot of professors will either know students who are working in industry or know other people who are looking for positions that you might be interested in as well. And I found like many professors to be good ways to connect in. So I guess big example of that, a class that I took during grad school, a guest lecturer came in and he was doing a large simulation project on the food retail environment. And he mentioned that they needed someone, they wanted to hire an intern for that summer that was interested in GIS. And I was like, oh wait, well, that's me. No one, so few people in my graduate program knew what GIS was, let alone had any GIS, knew how to use it. And so we started conversation. He ended up hiring me as an intern, and then that was how I got my fellowship through that program. He passed my CV over to one of his co-PIs who passed my CV over to my now boss. And so it was a lot of trading, like it was a lot of pushing my resume and seeing where it would land. And I think that's like, I mean, I think I was very lucky in that way, that it just happened to work out and I'm in a position that I love. But I think that it also is important to like use not just like the external connections like of people that you don't know yet, but also use the people that you do know already and that you already have built relationships with.
Great, thanks. I'm actually going to go off the cuff, and because we have two progressive degrees students here, Robin, who's already on the panel, and Austin, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to actually throw in a question specifically about progressive degrees. And you, Robin, you shared a little bit about sort of why you wanted to go the route of a progressive degree. But if you could just share a little bit more about that experience in that decision making. So Robin and Austin, because we have some time.
Austin, you want me to go first?
It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, so I believe I applied in junior year for the progressive degree program. And at that time I was interning at Metro, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do yet. I knew I wanted to be a planner, but I didn't know what type of planner, since there's so, you can work in land use, you could do transportation, sustainability. So I really wanted to pursue that more. And because in geodesign, you know, you kind of have 3 different types of training that you get. You get GIS, you get urban planning, and then you get architecture. And the classes I liked the most were my planning classes. And so I took that as a sign that maybe I should pursue planning if I had to choose one of those 3. So that is how I chose the planning degree, but I waffled on it. I think I applied on the very last day I submitted my application, and Darren was really mad because he had to write his letter of rec really quickly. But yeah, so I don't regret it, obviously, but yeah, if you have the opportunity, I would look into doing that if you want to be a planner.
We like time to be able to write you nice letters.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And as one of the students on here knows, many reminders to submit those letters. So Austin, go ahead, and I'm going to show you, go ahead and put you on the spot as well.
Yeah, so my experience is pretty similar to Robin's. I was only a year under her, so we actually went through Price together. We had a few classes together. But echoing what she said, taking all those classes from the architecture school, from Price, the GIS courses, I probably by junior year, I decided I wanted to go into the urban planning route. But as an urban planner, either for public or private, you needed essentially a master's as like a baseline. So doing the progressive degree was the most ideal situation for me, considering it was only 1 year to get the master's. And taking all those courses provided by Geodesign, I thought really helped me excel in the graduate courses. A lot of it was built upon GIS and all those design skills that we've gone through in architectural studio. And even beyond that, I was still able to use a lot of the skill sets I've developed through geodesign and the master's program.
Great, thank you. I have one last question for all of our panelists, and then we'll go ahead and open it up to general advice from anybody else that might happen to be on the Zoom right now, and additional questions from our students for the panelists. But the last one for you guys is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your geodesign self back in the day? Do I have to like do the round robin again? All right, Alex, you're next. You're first, Alex, this time.
Okay. So I think I entered college in USC with an idea of what I wanted. but not really any idea of how to get there. I think that, yeah, there's a lot of ideas of what like the ideal career would be, but also as an 18-year-old, it's hard to actualize and operationalize each step that you need to take. So I think I really wish that I had just taken a step back and allowed myself to just experience the moment as it was, as opposed to constantly be thinking about like, I need to do this all the time, like that and the other, and really focus on the moment and appreciate the experiences that are happening right in front of you. But with that said, like in order to fully experience the moment, you also have to commit yourself to that experience and that moment too. So like fully like diving deep and appreciating, but also like putting the work in. With that, I realized that I think like in geodesign, we talk a lot about how interdisciplinary each of the aspects of the degree is. But I think that sometimes I even forget this. Like a lot of the skills that we learn, like even if we perceive them to be hard skills, are actually very soft skills and can be cross-applied to any sort of discipline. So like, for example, I have not looked at any of my architecture studio materials since I finished the studio sequence in 2016, 2017, I don't remember. But like the concept of like constant iteration and that like just that simple ideal is so critical in the work that I do every day. So for example, like I will spend like probably like several hours like a day just like iterating over code and developing and designing parsimonious models like to make sure that I am like correctly modeling the data that I'm trying to represent. And it's like not the exact same thing, but it's still like the same logic flow behind it. It also, like a lot of those classes also taught me like to be terribly attentive to minute details, but also have the foresight to understand that like the smallest details also need a lot of context around it in order for those details to make any sense. And so like I think the work that I do like is very nitty-gritty in terms of I do a lot of small area estimation and calculations, but those calculations don't exist in a vacuum. Those calculations exist in our dynamic in the context of cities and populations and communities across the country. So I think that like each aspect of your education that you're getting fits in somewhere and somehow into what your end goal ultimately is.
Thank you. All right, Darren's clapping. I'm going to go to the right. Sam, advice to your geodesign self.
Yeah, I think one thing that I would emphasize to my former self would be sometimes just due to the nature of the classes you take as a geodesign student, it's easy to think of like your possible career paths as, you know, you're taking architecture and planning and GIS courses. So sometimes it's like me as a freshman, I remember always thinking like, okay, I either become an architect or a planner or a GIS specialist. But it's really important to remember that there's so much intermixing of those fields, first of all, and also just semi-related fields that are so perfect, like with our skill set, are so perfect for you to go into and find jobs in. I feel like no matter what industry you go into, like GIS could probably help, and even if it doesn't, the skill set you learn as a geodesign student definitely will. So when you're looking for jobs or internships or research or whatever you're looking for, remember not to box yourself into those couple of fields. Like when you're searching in the search bar, remember that there's a lot of other fields that you could be looking into. If you're really interested in forestry or biodiversity management. All of those jobs are basically just GIS jobs, or probably also some planning in there. Or there's so many related fields that you don't ever feel like you only have a few options for jobs, because one of the best things about geodesign is that there's a world of opportunities. If everyone wants someone who's, has worked with GIS, even if you don't end up using GIS in your daily job. Just the fact that your brain already understands how to take in all these different streams of information and compose it nicely all together, that's such a valuable skill set that can be applied to basically anything.
Thank you. I'm going to jump to Robin now. I'm trying to go, more recent graduate, a little more experience. So Robin, advice to your geodesign self.
So I have two things. The first is a bit more practical, and maybe this only just applied to me, but when I was taking my GIS classes and in labs, when you'd follow the steps in your book, I would just try to finish it and make sure I did the exercise and that I did it right, but I didn't really understand what I was doing. So later on, when I had GIS internships, I was like, wait, okay, this looks familiar, but how do I do it again? So I kind of had to reteach myself. So as you're doing your labs for GIS, just try to understand what you're doing. I know the professor says that, but it's really true. If you do it the first time, you won't have to go back and learn it again. So that's my first advice. And then second, if you can, try and do different internships while you're in undergrad. Maybe one can be a private sector internship and then the other can be public sector, so you can see what you like better. So I did a public sector internship and I liked it, but then Esri approached me and it was a whole new experience to work in the private sector. And now that I'm in private sector, I like it more than public sector. So I think it would be helpful if I figured that out beforehand in undergrad, if I did internships in both sectors and really understood that after I graduated. I think that would have helped me.
That's excellent. I think we often don't differentiate that a lot of times, or students don't, understand that differentiation of the private and the public sector, operationally even, and how they operate. So I'm going to throw that question over to Grace now.
Yeah, I agree with everything that everyone else has said. Something that I would add is don't be afraid to step off of campus and just become involved in what's happening in the city in terms of the built environment. There's a lot of stuff going on all the time. There are a lot of really cool nonprofits that are having volunteer things or working on neighborhood and community planning, and there's a lot of opportunity to just get your hands dirty and talk to people and learn about what they're doing. Even it could be an internship, or just even there have been nonprofits that I've just called them up to learn more about what they do, and now I have that person as a connection. And I think just starting to build that network early on so you can just learn more about what all of your different options look like in practice is super helpful. Even if it's just going to the LA River Master Plan community meetings and talking to the, landscape architect there to learn more about why they did XYZ on their plan. It can really help give you direction in terms of figuring out what you do or don't like to do and what path you see yourself going into.
Thanks. Last but not least, Courtney, a little bit of advice to your geodesign self, and then we do have some time for questions. So if any of you out there would like to ask a question, think about that question. You can type it in the chat and then I can go ahead, or you can raise your hand. So Courtney, advice to your geodesign self.
Yeah, I think I'll try and keep it concise. I think looking back, it's so important. There's 4 Ps. I think my dad told me this. For anyone who knows my dad, aka Susan, I feel like it's very fitting, but be positive, be proactive, be principled, and be productive. So your time in college is so limited, and I feel like everyone says that, but it's really true. And this is your time to just completely start to market yourself, in your career, in your lifelong career. So I think in every opportunity you have, be productive with your time. I chose to supplement geodesign with a minor in Viterbi in analytics, and I found that super helpful. And I think there's definitely a healthy balance of, you know, where to draw the line and to also make sure that you're enjoying yourself in college. But I mean, I can't stress enough, just like, this is your time to learn and indulge and like really just like better yourself in academia. And yeah, and then just like you know, on a final thought, you guys should all be so excited that you're a geodesign student, because like it's such an asset to any company to have the skill set that you guys are building, not only in like the figurative, being able to connect the dots between different fields, but also just, you know, GIS is such a valuable skill. Even at, you know, Deloitte, like so many people, like I can't even tell you how many people are like, oh, you know, GIS, like that would be so helpful in my project. So yeah, you know, keep on going. I know it's probably tough in pandemic time, but it'll be worth it.
Thank you. I just have to collect myself for a moment, because you guys are, we often say, you know, Dr. Wilson, John Wilson's here, Susan's here, Steve is here, Jen, Lele was here somewhere, various faculty are here, and oh, there's Lele. And we often say that our alumni and our students are our best ambassadors. And I just want everybody to know, we did not tell them what to say. This is all their own, this is true, this is from their hearts. And it's you know, and this is for our students and prospective students and parents, but I just got the warm and fuzzies. So if there are any other questions, if any of the faculty have a question for the panel, or any of the students have a question for the panel, or if any of the panelists have anything else to add, Ken wants to say hi or ask anybody anything. I'm gonna put him on the spot. I don't see any questions yet in the chat. I mean, I know we're good, but did we really cover everything? Yes, Lynn, you've got a question. Go for it.
Yeah, I have a question. So my question is, I feel like the major does a really good job in terms of setting up, like, you know, the technical skills needed in terms of like exploring GIS and big data and things like that. How do you guys feel about opportunities offered like by the geodesign major in terms of pursuing a position that's not so, I guess, behind the scenes in terms of analytics and just working with data, and more so like a hands-on or from a design-based lens?
I guess I can speak to that. So I don't know, were you here in the beginning or did you come on late? I forgot.
Yeah, I came a little bit late because of my class.
Oh, no worries at all. Okay, then just to give you some background. So I work full-time at an architecture firm, and I'm not an architectural designer. My new role as of a few months ago is a GIS data analyst, but I actually helped to write my own role description. So specifically, I wrote in a lot of stuff about it being really values and mission driven, and considering social justice and sustainability in cities. And so actually a lot of my time is not spent behind the scenes doing GIS, like in ArcGIS Pro, just running analyses. A lot of it's spent actually communicating with project teams, helping them understand what's going on and helping them really refine their values for a project and their vision for that project. And the data is just a tool to get them to expand their thinking. And so because of that, I've also been facilitating a lot of different engagement sessions with various communities. I'm working on, for example, a master plan right now for the second largest school district in Illinois, where we've been conducting community vision sessions where we've been talking to people about what's important to them and how schools can play a broader role in supporting community health. So I think the skill sets that we learn in our program really train us to make those connections super fast and to be able to translate something that, like, a lot of times you just show someone a map or you show someone data and they don't know what it means and they don't know how to react to it. And what our program prepares us really well for is translating that into something meaningful that an average XYZ person on bilingual parent advisory council or something can really understand and relate to, and that helps designers get to the bottom of the experiences of people in communities. And I think data can be that really powerful powerful thing that bridges the divide to start a more informed conversation with stakeholders. Did that answer your question at all?
Yeah, that was really awesome in terms of like, I guess to sum up what you said, like you feel like you developed the skill to have like interdisciplinary conversations amongst stakeholders.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank
we
you.
kind of get trained to be the translators between different parties.
Excellent question. Oh, I see one in the chat here. Oh, very good. Are there any particular extracurricular activities, spatial or non-spatial, that provided skills or experiences valuable to your work or school experiences now?
I'm gonna go ahead and do a plug for SC Mapping. I know a bunch of us on the panel were involved with it when we were at USC. A great opportunity, I mean, first of all, to just be in the club, great way to meet potentially other people in the geodesign program, but also just people maybe outside the program who might not even know geodesign exists, but are just interested in humanitarian mapping. So if you don't know about the SE Mappers Club, then you're basically doing open source GIS for humanitarian relief primarily. But also through that club, that's actually how I got the opportunity to do this internship with Youth Mappers. So Youth Mappers is the international organization of which SC Mappers is a chapter. So you get to work directly with OpenStreetMaps, really meet some interesting people and understand kind of, it's easy to think when you think of GIS jobs, oh, basically just working for Esri, but it's a great thing to also experience working for open source platforms and more nonprofit organizations. So just, that's a great resource if you're looking to kind of get some spatial experience that isn't just classes and labs and things like that.
Great. Anybody with a non-spatial related extracurricular?
Yeah, I think a really incredible opportunity that I had was, I guess, like, it was spatial adjacent related, but it wasn't spatial until I made it spatial. But there's a fellowship program at USC called Global Fellows, which is a 10-week-long internship that is all expenses paid, and in non-pandemic times will take place in either Taipei or Hong Kong. And so they will house you. You go with a cohort of about 20 students from USC, and there typically will be sophomores and juniors in the program. And you will be placed into a firm of some sort in, again, one of those two cities. And you'll essentially get like hands-on experience working in those places. So on top of getting like a summer in a foreign country, if you're not from either of those places, you also are getting valuable internship experience, and you're also getting paid. They fly you to and from for free. So I found that experience incredible because the work itself that I was doing was interesting to me, but then they also like gave me the funds to be able to travel on my own on top of that. So that was like by far incredible.
Amazing. So Susan is putting some links in the chat, and I think we have time for one more question. So Drew had his hand up, so go ahead. And Drew.
Hi. Well, thank you guys for being here. My question is just like through the job and internship hunt, for all of you, what kind of like succinct way have you come up with for communicating what geodesign is. And then for those of you who did the Master of Urban Planning program through USC, what was your concentration? Just curious.
Oh, excellent. Who's going to tackle the succinct way of encapsulating geodesign and art?
Yeah, I can. At least when I submit my resume, I write geodesign and then in parentheses, I say GIS, urban planning and architecture, just because it's just an easy way to list the skills really quickly on the resume and not taking up that much space. But then in the interview, that's where I would go and explain it in more depth and how holistic it is and all the skills that you learn as part of the program. And I was a transportation planning concentration.
I would just maybe quickly add that the great thing about geodesign is you can kind of, depending on where you're applying, you can definitely spin geodesign to relate to whatever job you're applying for. So if you're really interested in architecture, say you're applying to an internship at an architecture firm, of course you want to mention the holistic aspect of geodesign, but you can really emphasize your architecture experience and how you're learning, aspects of landscape architecture with traditional architecture, with spatial planning, or if you're, for any job, basically, you can start, I highly recommend having your base explanation of geodesign. And then what I did is, depending on what job or opportunity I was applying for, you have your base level explanation, and then you can add on to it details that are really specific towards that one opportunity.
I would second that. I also have sort of a rotating, well, I guess I had, because I haven't applied to a job in a year and a half, but just sort of a list of all of the different classes I took with explanations, and I would definitely rotate them in and out based on what I was applying to and what experience I would think would be relevant. Like sometimes it was really beneficial to have a large variety of things to show the breadth of what I had done, and sometimes it was better to specifically focus it on all of the classes or experiences that that were focused around one topic area. And Yasmin, just to answer your question, definitely SSI has a lot of research projects that they sponsor themselves. That's what I participated in. I can't speak for anyone else, but I know that a lot of people, including some of my best friends out of our program, have had really great experiences doing the in-research programs. And our department is really good about doing interdisciplinary research with other schools. So it's not insular, it's like GIS and health, or ecology, or marine biology, or all of these different things that you can get exposure to that we are not learning about directly in our classes.
Thank you. We have just about 5 minutes left, and so I do want to honor our panelists' time in various time zones and thank them for sharing some of their knowledge with our students. I will also add that for the current students, please do keep an eye out, as Grace just mentioned, and as Alex, I think Alex was the one who responded to Yaselin's question about research. We will be sending out a call close to over summer, I believe, the call for the research applications for various research opportunities within SSI and our affiliated faculty. So keep an eye out for that, as well as summer internship possibilities. That call will probably go out in April or May, just once we know which internships will be still being hosted over the summer. So keep an eye out. I know we do send you a lot of emails, especially now that everything is virtual, but keep an eye out for those. And go, if you would like to, you can access the chat. You can save the chat. Susan has put in a few links of different programs that were mentioned throughout. So, and some news stories. And we have also a couple of emails have been shared by our panelists. Thank you very much for being generous with that. So if you would like to contact them, they're apparently opening themselves up. So please, and you can always also via LinkedIn or things like that. So I want to say thank you and give Susan and Ken also, and John, if he's still here. I don't know if we lost him already. Steve, anybody else a chance to say hi and thanks?
It's just wonderful seeing you all, and it's great to have a way to talk with our current students and do some cross-pollination across the classes. So thank you for coming, and you know where to find us, I hope. I'll let Ken or Daron or anybody else say any parting words.
Thanks to our alumni. I miss you all. I'm glad to see your faces.
We're proud of you.
And for our current students, this will be you one day. So thank you for attending, and we'll just keep paying it forward. So I love working with this program. So it's because of you guys. So wow.
And they all miss you too.
I know from having 2 majors and 2 different advisors and friends in a lot of different majors, Ken is such a good advisor. So count your an appreciation moment.
Thanks.
Truly. I almost didn't graduate.
Yeah, same. Ken got me through.
Those are falsehoods. Alex, Grace, you guys are wonderful.
I mean, it was the Dorn-Scythe requirement.
Stop. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much. It is wonderful. Steve opened up his camera. I don't know if you want to say hi.
No, I just want to say hey to everybody. Great seeing everybody, and y'all stay well, be safe, take care of each other. Good seeing them.
Okay, one of these days we're going to have a really big party.
Yes. Thank you.
Back at John's house.
Okay. Thank you all so much. Thank you, alumni. It is wonderful to see you. Thank you, students. Thank you, faculty and staff. Hey, Bo. And thank you, everybody who is joining and watching this later on. Have a good evening, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks for having us.
See you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.